All right, welcome to Stampscapes Live. I'm trying to crank out these videos and cards as fast as I can because I want to get a lot of these done before my new stamps come in. All right, so this is a piece of semi-gloss cardstock, 4¼ by 5½, and we're going to have some light beams coming across this area from right to left. I don't know why. I don't seem to do that very often. I think it's always coming from... Oh, I mean, if there's an object in here, like a lighthouse or something like that, and I have the beam going that way, then it is. But I don't know. I seem to have my beams coming from left to right. I don't know. Maybe it's the way we read or something like that. But let's see if we can do this fairly quickly. Let's see. I'm going to start off with some peach Bellini here. Go with any kind of warm dye-based color. You don't have to do this in dye-based colors either, but this is just going to give me a really nice kind of head start in the entire toning process. All right. Now, I know this is going to be confusing for a lot of people, but it's like, okay, well, where do you add the light, okay, or the darkness to define the light? Well, I usually go for a kind of a general vignette of tone around my scene like this, okay? It just depends on where the objects are too. You know, it's going to be a little bit different, you know, from, I don't know, whatever scene, composition to composition. And then I start coloring in, you know, some of my objects. And I also look for objects and where they are, okay? Now, like this right here, this is a road, so it's going to be, it provides a strong visual lead-in, so I tend to leave those lighter, okay? But you can see the trees are here, so I'm putting some tone underneath the trees like that. And here's this cabin right here. So I'm going to anchor that cabin down with some shade. So you can kind of see the, here's some trees right here. You can see the lighting scheme kind of coming around already, okay? Now this, I don't want this just to be white like that, so I'm going to go with the contours of this road a little bit like this, all right? And then we can see, you know, some areas of lightness in here, a little bit darker. Now, this is just the first color, so we're going to be using a lot of different colors in here and shade, but that's just kind of in general. So I'll make my edges a little bit darker, okay, and I'll go in those shadow areas like this. This is your base layer color, so it's just kind of it's a general kind of lighting structure for light, you know, for your eventual lighting scheme, all right? And then I tend to add a little bit more in those areas that are going to be a little bit darker or darkest, okay? So usually the four corners if we're going for that vignette, like that. And then you just kind of use this as a guide for your other colors and values to come. Hello, Bugs, how are you? All right, so let's follow up with some brown right here. This is kind of a warm tan, so like your distress inks are a really good choice for that. There's a lot of colors that are really, I don't even know why they have them in their line, but they're fantastic for me because they're really super light and warm, and they're not super vibrant either because they're supposed to look aged, but the old paper and antique linen are really good. All right, so see that right there? We're going a little bit darker with this. We'll hit it underneath the shadows right here. And this just gives us a really fast kind of a, I was going to say lighting scheme. It's shadow and tone additions like that. Okay, I'm going to use some colored pencils on here because I really love using those, but I'm going to provide a kind of a foundation for them. And just so I don't have to color everything in, you know, with a little colored pencil, it's just so much faster to do it, you know, with you know, something that's going to apply quicker. Okay, all right. Now I wanted to make this kind of. I'll have some different colors in here, but I'm not going to make it super colorful because I wanted this to look a little bit more kind of like an antique looking kind of take on this scene. So it's not going to look like a sepia print, but it's kind of in the spirit of something like that, okay? Or maybe it's a black and white print, you know, that they used to kind of colorize or something of that sort. Not that anemic though. I want to go a little bit more vibrant than that. All right, so that is that, and let's bring in some warmth into the piece. Let me see if I have something in the distress inks. Maybe like a mustard seed might be good. All right, so I'm just using the same paper towel here to apply this with. And that gives me a little bit of a combination of the other colors that I've already used and this new one here. I mean, you could say you maybe should have started off with the mustard seed because it's a little bit, you know, lighter, but, you know, no big deal. You know, to get, if I'm getting a little bit of this color, and remember I've tapped off most of it anyway, so it's not like I'm going into that brown, tapping into my brown, and just going directly in there. I've, you know, been wiping it off on this, you know, scene in the coloring process here. All right, so that's really, really yellowy, okay? I mean, it's too much, but we're gonna knock that back with a lot more tones in here too. All right, so that, let's go to a brown. Like I said, like a walnut color or something like that, that would be good. All right, and there we're knocking back some of that kind of more vibrant yellowish tinge, but the yellow is giving it that nice kind of glow to the piece. Dye-based inks are transparent, so anything that you lay down underneath other dye-based or like media, so, you know, transparent media such as alcohol inks, will affect kind of the overall end result. So just adding this brown right in here over the top of our two other tones so far. Here, I'll show you what just brown just looks like on its own, but you can see the brown over the top of those, what is it now? 3 other colors, I think, that are underneath that one. 2 or 3. There's not a formula either. You just kind of, if you lay your pads out and, you know, you just kind of look at the indexing. I mean, this peach bling, I know this one doesn't have a color to it, but it's kind of like this in terms of light and dark. And if it harmonizes to your eye, then it'll blend on your paper just fine. Okay. And it doesn't have to be like super close to something. I'm not gonna do like a violet over like a or blend I don't know, like a lime green in with a like a purple or something like that. You know, something too extreme. But as long as the colors are kind of within the vicinity, they'll blend, you know, just fine on your card. So if you don't know if something's going to blend, just make it visual and put it right next to, put it right out in front of you and see if it blends, or harmonizes, I should say. All right, so there we go with our pretty much our foundation coats of colors right there. We'll define things a little bit more now with the colored pencils, or a lot more. But, you know, the bulk of it, you know, you can get done really quite fast. You know, here, I thought I was thinking about adding a tinge of some other colors in there, so let's go with this. So, see this right here? I mean, see these, it's not a direct, you know, transition into these other colors right here, but where'd that mustards go? So see something like this. I mean, these colors kind of naturally harmonize with each other like that, okay? So you can blend them together like this. I mean, this is the mustard, three different types of brown. The peach Bellini's underneath there too, but you just kind of like lay this in here, and you can lay it in here very lightly, or you can put more in there if you want to. You can kind of dry brush it into the piece, just to see if you like it, and if it looks fine. And if you want to add more, you can always add more. Let me add a little bit more underneath these trees right here to add a little bit of extra shadow work. I'm making this scene a little bit darker, just because I want these light beams to really stand out with a little bit more contrast in here. If I wasn't going to do some, they call them crepuscular rays coming across in here, then I might leave it a little bit lighter. But I want to do these little things where there's kind of like these, what do they call them? Lens flares in the air here too, to make this a little bit more dramatic. Okay, so that is I think that was a jungle green, kind of an aged green. Oh, the peeled paint would have been good too. The peeled paint is going to be lighter than that color though, so it's, even if I put the peeled paint over this, we're not going to be able to see anything, so I think we'll leave it at that. And let me grab some similar colors in colored pencils here to the ones that I've just laid down. Maybe I'll go with some darker tones like this too. So here's light, medium, and dark in your colored pencils, and here's with the greens, and then here's kind of a lighter. I mean, this isn't like real light, because if I put something real light on there, it's not even going to show up. So kind of medium tones and darker ones in the brown range. Maybe I should use a little bit of black too. So something like this. So it's working through a little bit of a value range of each one of these different hues. Okay. Now I'm not expecting to put down a light green over the top of a darker green than this, but I might be able to get it a little bit more kind of vibrant and warm of a tinge of green if I add some of this down here. Now, this is a semi-gloss cardstock, so it still has a coating on here. So colored pencils work ideally, the best way by grabbing onto the tooth of the paper texture. So I can't add in too many layers of colored pencil on semi-gloss, but you can add, if your pencils are soft enough too, you can add probably like 2 to 3 layers of it. As long as they're fairly light. If you go on with a big, heavy slathering of one colored pencil, okay. Because the wax buildup just gets too much, and it's, you're not really going to be applying like a wax, application over another one. It just, it becomes too sealed off. All right. So colored pencils are really great for kind of detailed areas, and color, they're good for coloring whole things too, but I really like how I can maneuver them around or within objects in really specific areas. Okay, so that cabin right in here, that's fairly anemic looking, so I can come in here and I can do with the colored pencil what's, something that's not quite as easy with, a wadded up paper towel. It's this is good for like general areas or something like that, but not like really specific areas. All right, now my inks are a little bit wet on here still. Okay, they're not sopping wet, but I can tell the surface is still a little bit moist, so this would go on even better if these, the surface was dry. Hello, Patty and Megan. All right, let's see. Let's go. I think I need to go fairly dark. It's, I'm not applying too much. I see a little bit happening. It's just a very, very gradual change on here. This area right here is really sopping wet still, so I'm not really getting very much of an application in there at all. Yeah, I could heat set it. I have my heat gun right here, so let's see if I can dry this a little bit. You can see where it's really moist on here still, you know, with that glare. All right, I don't like to dry things completely, but we'll get some of that moisture out of the off of the surface right here. You can see it's not as quite as, you know, glistening, kind of moist in here. It's not shiny anymore, so I'm not kind of applying like a colored pencil into a puddle anymore. So it should help a little bit. I'm using the yeah, this is going on much easier. The Prismacolor pencils I've heard are some of the softer, just in general, colored pencils, so it's a little bit easier to use it on here. There's some pencils, even within the same Prismacolor pack that I have, though, that are harder than other colors. So some colors just, I don't know, they don't apply very well. So keep that in mind, you know. If you try colored pencils or something like that on your semi-gloss cardstocks and it's not applying, then it could just be they're a little bit too hard or dense of a, you know, type of a material. Okay, see this right here where I'm kind of adding in some these little shadows within my grassy range, and it just makes, you know, this terrain in here seem a little bit more three-dimensional. And that's the, I'm coloring in, I added the sedge filler in here like this, okay? So where I can see that texturing in here, I'm just going in and adding that little bit of tone to it to reinforce those varied textures within that space. Okay, so so in other words, I'm just kind of following my stamping. I'm not, you know, I could make it up here and just add it wherever, but I'm just kind of following the impressions. So again, see, this is like darker underneath here in those shadow areas. So you just kind of flesh those out a little bit more like that. I don't know if the comparison's like a coloring book, you know, we don't have like different cells that are defined by outlines, okay? But in a tonal type of image like this, you know, composition like this, what you do is you just go in and look for darker areas, though, and you just kind of add additional value to them, darkness, okay? You can do that in the trees here. I'll hit it. Trees here. Let's get some green in here in the shadows like that. There's a kind of a deciduous tree in between these green ones like this. And I'm just toning in kind of the shadow areas of the deciduous. Hello, Froggy Fresh. Oops, hold on a second here. I just got a text I had to answer. Okay, so let's go in with our black now. Everything's getting pretty well defined and whatever, shaded, lit, like this. Okay, my black right here, luckily the black, is usually the last color that I use in the coloring process. I usually start light and work darker with the colored pencils and dye-based inks or something like that. When I get to the acrylic paint pens, I usually work dark to light as opposed to light to dark. Okay, but going back to this black right here, it seems to be one of the softest of the colors, so I'm able to apply that over everything really easily. Okay. Luckily, okay. I don't want to get to that final kind of defining color. And it's like, okay, you can't go any further, because you already kind of built up all the colored pencil that you can. But see how varied that terrain is in there now. It just looks so much better just by kind of dividing up some of these little areas in here, and it just doesn't look like a flat grassy meadow anymore. Like, you know what I mean? I don't want it to look like it's been mowed or something like that. It's more kind of natural looking. Like this, and here's this road here. You see these whatever grooves in the road, from a car or something like that. It could be a wagon. And I'm just going in here and making those a little bit darker. Okay, that's with black. I think I want to do it with a little bit of brown, though, too. Something a little bit lighter. As I look on this piece right here, it would have been cool to put in my fences right in here, like on each side of this road. I already have this tree right here, but if I were to do it again, I think I'd put my fence like right in here, and then a little tiny bit of it right here. I don't know. It'd just be a post on that side, but all right, I think that is about it. I could go a little bit more. I get lost in these details like this. I really love, when I'm starting to hit it with black, it seems like it's all really coming together now. Just in terms of kind of, I don't know, a little bit more continuity, and I don't know, the lighting is really starting to develop just with this black right here. Which is sometimes the case, we stamp out all of our objects, usually, our elements with black ink, so bringing in that same hue or value is often the thing that can really unify your different objects even a lot more. Look at that black right there. And I'm mostly doing this right here, okay? I'm mostly doing like a 20% version, and then I might add a little bit more, but I'm adding it like that. And then see, I can just, the longer I stay there with that same pressure, it gets a little bit darker, right? So say I get this transitioning value scale just by using the same pressure, okay? Now, I mean, there might be certain areas where I want a little bit darker, and then I'll really kind of use a little bit more pressure, but I like just kind of watching it develop slowly, and I have a lot more control over it that way than just going into something going like really, dark like that. So I prefer kind of like, I don't know, whatever. With each little stroke, it's more like a 2% addition, and then you go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I mean, you can slow down too. You can change it to like a half a percentage of a, tone, so that it takes, 20 passes before it gets to like a 10% gray or something like that. But that's where you have a lot of control over it. Especially when you first start doing, the scene, just getting a feel for it and how dark that particular scene is in a certain area. All right, so this is one of the reasons I do use glossy still, but I'm using a little bit more of the I've been using more of the semi-gloss cardstocks over the last, I don't know, it's been 2 years, 18 months or something like that. And plus, there's a lot of people that just can't seem to find glossy cardstock where they are or in a certain country. In the US, we can order it online from different sellers. Oftentimes, you gotta buy it in a pack of like a whole ream, though. But you can often find semi-gloss a lot easier for some reason. All right, so anyway, all right. I'm trying to think if I want to do anything before I add in those beams in here. If I want to add in the texturing on the grass first. Let's go ahead and do that, okay. So in terms of sequencing, I guess you can really go with whatever you want. In terms of what we're going to do now, which is pigment ink and acrylic paint pens. Okay, now one of the things I'm remembering now as I'm kind of getting ready right here is the acrylic paint pens on here, they really kind of soak into the paper. So when you're applying them, they're going to get a lot more translucent to transparent looking than what they look like, what the paint applications look like when they're freshly applied. Okay, so let's see right here. I probably added like way too much yellow right here. So I'm just going to apply some of the paint pen work over the top of that just to knock it back a little bit. I could make it darker, but I don't really want to make it darker. I just want to make it more earthy looking. Hello, Debbie. Are you also making the trees gold? Kind of, yeah. It's going to be like this. I want this like really brilliant light within the piece. So everything is kind of that warmish, I don't know, whatever tinge in here. Okay, so this is like a dull yellow right here. I'm going to see if that's a lighter tone. No, it's darker tone. I was going to see if it was a lighter tone than that road right there. And if it was, I would apply some of it, but it's darker, so I see like these darker kind of yellow spots on there. Okay, so here's some white right here. Okay, now this white, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's going to dry darker than what it looks like right now after it's been freshly applied. All right, so bring some of that out like this. Okay, so it's like this lighting coming out like that. I concentrate more of it in the more illuminated area. Okay, and now it's not only going to be in here. I'm going to use these little dots everywhere else in here to represent highlights. So it's not going to stand out like that. But all right, let's see. Is Megan still here? Megan, grab your Tiny Rocks Small. She doesn't have it yet. I'm just joking, but she ordered it. But see this area in the grasses right here? I'm going to add some of this Tiny Rocks Small in here as texture. Okay, you can see if you like it more. And I'm going to add here and there, like that. Okay. So this right in here, and then I have it. I don't know if you can see it out here. It's real subtle in here because it's like black against kind of a darker green, okay? but it's right like back in there a little bit. And that almost looks like a pond right there. So these little textures like that, you know, so again, it's on the road right here. So there. So we kind of solved a little bit of this coloring in here. You know, that might have been a little bit too extreme yellowish, so I knock it back a little bit with the white on there, and then I add in some extra texture. So it's like white and black right over the top of it. So it's just, it pushes back that yellow a little bit. It's still there, but it's just kind of layered underneath, you know, two other things now. So you're kind of burying it under a couple visuals. Okay, so let's see here. I'm not going to use all these pens, but I just grabbed them because they're, you know, kind of related to this color scheme. This is a little bit of a, you know, whatever, beige, kind of a dull beige like this. And we have these little areas of shadow right here, okay, which represents kind of this, you know, little defining shadow work for this texture right here. So it's like a mound of grass, and it goes like that. And here's a mound of grass right here, like that. So where I'm putting these highlights is right at the top edge of these right here. It's a little bit of softer edge. If it was like a rock or something like that, where you see this like sharp edge on the top of something, it kind of makes sense. But this is like grass, so you want it to be a little bit more airy. So instead of a really defined hard edge like that on the top, you have just these little dots like this, and it kind of looks more of like a varied texture, you know, which grass would be like that, okay? Or grass would be from looking at it at a distance like that, okay? All right, so we got that going right in here. Now see, there's some areas right in here. See, that's light, dark, light, like that. Let's put a little bit of highlighting on that edge of that little slope. And here's some trees right in here too. Here's a rock right here, and I can put a more defined line on top of that, and there's some grass around it. Like so, here's another rock right here. I'm highlighting these a little bit more extreme than I normally would, because this is in the dark, so I wouldn't highlight something so much, but I'm going to have these light beams coming across in here. And so these kind of more kind of extreme, you know, lit, highlighted textures, you know, are going to kind of just blend in with that a little bit more. If I wasn't adding the beams, I would probably be a little bit more, yeah, I don't know, whatever, selective at the amount of highlighting that I'm putting in here, okay? But this scene's going to be about kind of extreme lighting in a way. Anytime you add those light beams into a scene. Now I can add those light beams in and do this highlighting work afterwards too. Or you can do some of it, then add the beams in. It's like, okay, I want more highlights here and there, you know, based on where the beams go. So, you know, your sequencing doesn't have to be, you know, so definitive. Okay, it's more of like a circular process. You go into this and it's like, oh, I should have added more dye-based ink or something like that. You can add it on right over the top of that. You'll probably, you know, color some of your acrylic, but you could. The one thing that you can't really add too much of, if I went back to my dye-based inks, and if I have a big slathering of a colored pencil in here, the dye-based inks probably won't stick to it very well. But it might stain it a little bit, I don't know. All right, so let me see. Let me go a little more in these trees. Okay, yeah, here, let's go in this tree down here. I'm just kind of looking for objects in the design that are illuminated a certain way, you know. There's lights and darks in the image itself. So let's see. I put a little bit of lighting in between these trees right here. And I think that should do it. It looks kind of nice just as is, but this scene's about the beams, so. Oh, okay, so here's this yellow right here. I was thinking about adding some of that in here too. Yeah, okay, it shows up. I didn't know if it would show up in here. It won't show up as much when it dries. I just know it. But I don't know, I'll get some of it added in there. It just kind of warms it up. I want this one to really have this kind of warm type of glow in here. See, it's a little bit too much now from a textural standpoint. I mean, it looks okay, but it's a little bit crazy. So some of the light beams coming across in here will be going over, you know, some of our objects in here. So you won't have that little contrasting amount of dots in a certain area here. All right, so I've left a little bit of light right in there. So that's kind of the natural place for some of our, or all of our beams to emanate from. And I'm going to do it kind of lightly. I usually don't have it kind of streaking across a landscape like this, but I wanted to give it a try. But let's do this. I'll have the, what you do is with these crepuscular rays, light beams, is you can just kind of designate some area on here that you'll remember. So I'm going to go with this branch right here because that's kind of, it's a little bit lower on the horizon. I don't want to have a light beam kind of coming from low to high like this. So I think that little branch that kind of sticks out like there will be a natural location for a beam. Let me go, I need a piece of, a couple pieces of copy paper. I'm down to like one piece, well, here, let's see. Got a couple pieces of scratch paper right here. My trash. They're not really good for using as blotter anymore because they're so colored, but you know, I can use them as my mask right here. So these are your light beam templates right here. I don't know if I want that beam, now that I look at this, like to be coming from right there, or do I? Let's do this. I'm going to have the light coming from a little bit over here more, so let's go with I'm going to designate that little spot right there, okay? There's just a little hole, and it's just because I can see it, so right there. So your light beams, you just kind of, you have your vanishing point right on that spot. Now if I can just remember where that is. There's a little yellow dot so I can see. All right, so let's see. Let me get my bearings here. Yeah, okay. How much over that? Okay, so I don't need to have like, I'm not going to put like my light beam coming from over here, but that's where the vanishing point is. But the light starts right here, so it's going to be coming into this area right here, okay? Now I don't want this to be, I want it to be dramatic, but I don't want it to be too, the beam to be too extreme and opaque, okay? So, I'll show you what I do here. All right, so, as I always say in my videos, my cotton, C for cotton, white pad here, it's not super juicy, okay? So I ink up here. I'm inking up right here, and I'm, see, it's all frayed like that. Okay, can you see that? Right there, I'll show it. So you want to squash that down, okay? And what you're doing is you're kind of loading up the surface of the cotton ball with some ink right here. The surface, and it's kind of pushing some back into the cotton too. And again, my pad here is, it's kind of more dry, I would say. I used to call it medium dry, but it's probably a lot more, it's like midway between medium and dry, okay? I mean, it just depends. If I'm doing like a big, huge cloud structure and I need a lot of ink, then I'm inking up this, you know, before I do that one. Okay, so let's find that vanishing point again. And let's see. This is not an exact thing. If I was to do this thing like another time, my beams are going to, you know, probably be completely different or different width, and, you know, they might be, I might have a different vanishing point angle or something like that. But here's what you do. You start adding in some of this ink like this. And see, I'm not going like this, like tap, 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 all the way up that. I'm kind of adding this in here, and this is getting drier here. And then I'm kind of working that drier one. Now see, I'm kind of going up this a little bit more. So I started right there. See how much ink there is? And now this is getting really dry, so I'm adding it in this area right here. Like that. See how it's kind of dissipating right there. You know, that light beam, that transition, okay? Now you don't have to, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to put it up here. It doesn't have to be this solid beam going all the way across in there. In fact, I like it a little bit more irregular. So like right here, I might not do anything, okay? And right here, I've kind of put it down here like this. If it's a wide beam, you know, if it's a real narrow beam now, you know, but, and see, and now I'm putting some of it up here like this, okay? And like I said, if I was to do this again, it would be completely different, you know? It just varies, but it just comes to show you, you know, it doesn't have to be like uniform or anything like that. Okay, that's a little bit too light of an application. So I'm just going to come in here, and I'm going to put, I'll put a little bit more like it right up here. Okay, let's see, it's a little bit more solid, and then there's a little bit less, and I'm putting a little bit more right there. Okay. I'll put a little bit more on the top of the beam. Sometimes I do that too, and it's a little bit more, I don't know, I think more realistic looking like that, okay? So you see that right there? As opposed to this one uniform heavy beam, which I used to do, okay? And I thought, I don't know. Then I started looking at photographs, and it was like, okay, the beam's like broken up. You know, some places like the beam might, you might see some of the beam and then nothing. And then you might see it continue out. It's because some, like a tree might be in the way or something like that if it's going through, you know, branches or something like that. Okay, now I don't want to obscure my main subject matter. I think that beam, I think that's my dot right there. So I don't want to have the beam just going like straight across my cabin like that, okay? So I'm going to have it a little bit more obscured. Or not obscured, but I'm going to have a little bit more like framed, I guess. Okay. So again, here's where I'm applying a little bit more of this right here. See, there's that little, that's the little balcony on that cabin right there. And, you know, if I want that a little bit more defined, then just don't tone over it too much. I want a little bit going over it, but, and then let's see how this looks. If you ever apply too much, you know, before the ink dries, just kind of wipe it off. This is a semi-gloss, so it's grabbing the paper a little bit faster, but something like that. See that beam coming in there like that? It kind of breaks up there a little bit like that, but let's do something right here too. Okay, so the beams are going in front of the trees right here, right? So I'm going to use my same vanishing point. like this. And see this little area right here? I just have a little bit of space right here, but I'm gonna have like a beam going behind the trees, okay? So I'm gonna do this right back in here. Like that, okay? So it's, you know, it's behind there. It kind of looks weird like that because I don't have like all my beams in here yet. But let's see, there's my vanishing point right there. And one of the things about doing this too, there's something in us, I'm kind of convinced, and I don't know, other people have mentioned it to me too, but when they do this, they have a tendency of making like all the beams completely uniform. It's like we're going for like pattern or something like that. But I think it's better if you kind of you vary the width of the beams and also kind of the strength of them too. So this one right here, I don't think we'll be able to see very much because I'm just putting the beam over a very light brown. So maybe I'll try to make the beam a little bit more opaque and white right there. Okay, I don't know if you can even see it right there. It's a little bit too harsh, so let me blot that off a little bit. Again, that's going to dry a little bit, so you know, you won't be able to see it quite as much when it dries. And you know, some of that color will show through it a little bit more. Let me see. I want it to show through a little bit more right now. All right, so let's get another one coming in here. Let's go a little bit more narrow, though, and see what that looks like. It's really fun if you put someone like, I don't know, like a hiker or a animal, you know, a deer or something like that, like right in, you know, the beams somewhere. It's kind of a dramatic, makes for a dramatic visual statement. Okay, this is a pretty narrow beam right here. Let's see what it looks like. I'll kind of do a weak one at first. That. Okay. So let's do another one, like right up here too. It seems like it needs a little bit of a little balance here. I'm having a hard time finding my little dot at times. Let me see here. Here, I could find it like this, but just going like this. Okay, it's that one. Okay, I wasn't quite sure if it was that one. It seemed that one made sense, but I wasn't quite sure. All right. All right, so something like that right there. Okay. Now the beams itself, they're a little bit harsh, or a lot harsh right now. So what I do, after I put them in there, there's all these hard lines, even though it's kind of a lighter value that's see-through, okay? But those beams are really harsh in here, so what you do is you just go in here, and now you just kind of mellow out some of those, I guess, lines or angles in here. So see this tree right here, I'm adding in some additional pigment ink. Again, it's like that fogging kind of effect that you do. And you bring that in right around, especially around your source of light like that. Here, it's coming right from behind this tree right here, right? So let's add some of this, you know, like some of that light is coming through some of those branches right in there. Like that. And what you have is the light kind of wrapping around these objects again, like this in here. Let's add some of it down, like maybe around in here. This is all kind of a common textural look in here. So I'll come in here and I'll add in kind of some light and whatever, textural contrast in here, I guess we can call it. Thus, you don't want to add it everywhere because you want there to be some contrast in here. So kind of concentrated in one little area. And see, I keep working that area because I'm kind of trying to blend it out like that and transition it. So I stay in that one little area and just keep tapping around in there until I get what I want. So I just wanted that little bit like that. And then let's put some on this other side of the road too. Oh, so this area right in here got a little bit too yellowy, you know, for me. So I can just go in here and put a little bit of this white pigment ink, kind of fog over the top of it again. And here's yet another little texture. I mean, I can still see all the yellow in there, but it's just kind of like it's a more muted, less intense version of it, like that. So. All right, I think that should do it. And let's make that even lighter in here. And again, it's going to dry more see-through, so dark, and it's going to be a little bit darker in that space. So I'm adding a little bit more than what I think is probably ideal. But yeah, look at that, like glaring, streaming light now, like that. It'd be cool to kind of live there if you saw that kind of lighting effect every day. This beam right here, I think this beam's a little bit harsh for me. I'm going to just kind of wipe some of it off like that. Yeah, see, that just darkened it a little bit like that. Okay. Yeah, that one was a little bit harsh. I want to see more of the cabin work right in there. Yeah, that's like ideal like that. Let me see something too. Is there adjust anything else in here? This beam's a little bit harsh. Let's go like that. Okay, so I'm just taking my dry paper towel. That white ink in there, it's fairly well adhered, you know, to the surface like that. But you know, if I wanted to really take it off, I'm sure I can kind of buff it off. But it has like the perfect. Let's break up this beam a little bit more too. Okay, so I'm gonna. See, it's going down like this, so I just kind of removed some of it right in there. So it's like some, you know, beam, no beam, beam, no beam, beam. And let's see, let me make this one a little bit, I'll dissipate this one a little bit more like that. So, it, you know, it's not quite as defined up here. Like so. All right, let's have some fun here. We've done all that work. We deserve some fun. I'm just joking. All of it's pretty fun. But let's put these little like lens flary types of things into the scene. It's a fun little textural thing. You can do this, and it could be like stars or something like that, or they could be fireflies too. But I just like them as kind of a little bit of a textural lighting, I don't know, kind of visual interest type of shape in my pieces. So. Oh, like right around in here in these shadows, I'm just going to put these little white little dots like that. Okay, they're larger than like these little highlights over here. And in the beams like this, I'll just put kind of like a couple of these larger ones like this. Kind of within the path of the beam. Like so. I don't know, there's like two. I'm going to illuminate some of these branches around where I've really kind of added a lot of that pigment ink to make this area kind of glisten a little bit more. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of glary, I'm sure, on screen. Okay, but see these little larger little dots like that? I'm not going to put one back there. But it's like if you get like a lens flare or something like that, if you're pointing your camera or something like that, you know, those little balls, you know, of light that are kind of within the light beams. That's kind of what the, whatever the illusion that we're going for here. So I just take my cotton swab like this, and let me see if I have any real soft ones still. This one's used, I should toss it. Used in terms of ink, not on my ear. All right, I kind of fray the top a little bit, okay? And then you're inking up, and then you're kind of blot off a little bit, you know, to kind of smash down that tip and to really get it soft. 100% cotton ball, okay? The tightly wound acrylic ones don't really work for this. You know, not to get a soft application. Those ones are just too tight. So I just get like a blob when I'm using those ones. But the cotton ones are just nice and soft. You know, they kind of fray like that, okay? So you just lightly kind of tap down like that, okay? I have a little bit too much on here still, but just kind of move it around a little bit. And you want to kind of blend that out as much as you can. I mean, there's only so much you can really do, but so I'm kind of tapping a little bit lighter like this, and I'm building that up, the tone, so you get that little glow coming through there. Okay, now where they are in the light beam, it's going to represent more of a, like a lens flare, so I kind of build up that, you know, that little glow a little bit more. Now, you can't have like one glowing type of thing within a scene unless you're designating like a star or something like that. So they're gonna look kind of weird until you add it into more areas of the scene, because it makes for kind of a, as small as those little things are, they make for a pretty I don't know, whatever. They make for a strong kind of visual kind of statement, because there's something that's kind of glowing in an area, and typically you're putting it into an area where they're going to stand out a little bit more. But from a textural standpoint, they really stand out for me. Okay, now I'm holding this up because there's so much glare on here, but this is kind of more of what the scene kind of looks like right here, like that. These ones can almost be like little fireflies. As people that told me where there are fireflies, which is not around me, and they said, put a little bit of greenish tinge in there, so like in the center, so I'll call these ones like little fireflies, and these ones will be lens flares out here, so I'll put this little green little dot on the inside of these ones over here. This area right in here might have gotten a little bit too foggy, misty. I can't see my fireflies as much. Let me see, let me wipe out some of that. It's like removing makeup or something. It feels like I'm taking like cold pack cream off or something like that. All right. Not that I wear clown makeup and cold pack cream or something, but there you have it like that. So there's some examples of some light beams. I usually have it coming from a different area, like underneath a cloud or something like that, or out from like a lighthouse or something like that, but it adds a little bit of visual kind of drama into a scene. Let me see right here. This is a little bit too much too. Too much fog right there. I can't see my light beam as much right in there. Like that. There we go. Yeah, this is good. I went fog crazy maybe, now that I'm looking at this. I want to emphasize that that lighting in there a little bit more. But so what I'm typically going for in my pieces, a lot of times, okay, I want there to be kind of like the illusion of light coming from within a scene out of the scene. It's not, you know, we don't have any light source in our cards or something like that unless we're doing something with like LEDs. So it's all kind of reflected light. But when you do something like this, it kind of reiterates this idea of kind of a light source and emanating light coming out of the piece like that. And it's pretty fun to do. And then in here, we've employed the use of, whatever, fireflies or something like that in there. Let me do something here too. I'm going to add one more, like right here. Kind of going over some of those. I kind of lost that white there, those white dots and that green dot. It kind of, like I said, it kind of fades out a little bit. So as it dries. Here's another kind of a brighter one right there. About like so. But anyways, I don't know, all kinds of different lights in here. We have our light beams, we have our whatever, lens flares, and then lightning bugs like that. So hopefully all these little things in here don't detract from kind of the visual pull into the scene. So it's like, there's kind of illumination within the night cabin too. And hopefully it kind of draws the viewer in. We're kind of like drawn towards light, right? So hopefully it kind of pulls the viewer into the scene like that while you have this kind of light radiating out like that. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I want to add in here. I don't think there is. But I really love the colored pencil ability on this semi-gloss cardstock. We've added in some wildflowers down there, but I just did that, so I don't want to do like the same type of thing in a scene. But you can add in little flower tones in here too. That would be pretty cool. Hello again, Linda. We're knocking off these stamp sketches in terms of finishing them off here. So earlier today, some people were on in the earlier scene too, so we finished this one off right here. This one is just glossy cardstock right here. I need to spray seal this top portion right here to kind of mellow out some of these alcohol ink pens. But see this down here? There's a little shadow kind of rocks down here. I took I added too much action down here. It was too busy down here. So I took alcohol on my cotton swab and I just mopped off some of those stays on impressions down there. But you can still see them a little bit. But I thought, that looks pretty good. It looks like they're under the water, like these rocks and textures down here. So I didn't mind it, and then I took out some leaves right there a little bit, so it just looks like a shadow of a leaf or something like, this one's casting a shadow down here. So I added this lower section down here just to make this a reflection card like that, because I really like what was going on up there, and I spent, a decent amount of time up there. So I just doubled the effect by adding this, piece of foil down here, so you get double the, double your whatever results for, like I said in the earlier video, half of the work. Now this one right here, I went and put a reflection down here, and this is like a road going to like a pond, which maybe wouldn't make sense or something like that, but this would look kind of interesting as a reflection card with a gold like that. I could make this like a pond. I'd put a bunch of reeds or something like that there, and I would darken in that base right there, but kind of reflecting that top portion in there like that would be pretty interesting. Or maybe there was just a flood of, heavy rainfall or something like that. In the road, there's this like gigantic puddle here. All right, but anyways, another stamp sketch down. I only have like one more to do. Actually, there is two more. But this one's on glossy, but I wanted to use colored pencils. So I think this one right here, I might just do monochromatic and do it like a really quick grayscale finished solution for that one right there. But hello, military mom. Cynthia, good to see you. All right, so yeah. On this one right here, I'm going to mat it on gold though, like this, I'll put a little bit of a border of white in here. But these kind of warmer tinge pieces like this look really good with just a little bit of a, like a hint of that white around there like that. And then if you put it on gold like that, or whatever, you know, you can do whatever colors you want. I think that would look, you know, not on this piece of paper, obviously, but you can see that right around in there. And when I do this type of little thin little border like that, what that does is it brings out all these little types of elements like this within the scene. There's little textural highlights like that. I think it looks like it shimmers really nicely. A cabin in the light. Cabin lights, we'll call it. Like that. So a cabin light, the lighting on the horizon, the light beams, the lens flares, and then the fireflies like that. So a lot of different lights around the cabin, you know. In terms of a scene title, I think. Or, I don't know, whatever, Golden Cabin, something like that. All right. Oops, what happened here? We zoomed in all of a sudden. Anyway, here's your scene. I hit something wrong here. Anyways, you can see my studio here. Joining in. Hope to see you in the next. Hope to see you in the next live. Boy, it's spooky seeing my face up there like that. Horrific. All right, folks, have a great rest of evening.